Yeah. So we had a huge news come out of New York as their coach, Tom Thibodeau, was fired, will no longer be the New York Knicks head coach. Um, Little surprise, but then again, you mentioned this on the previous episode. And then I don't even think it was 24 hours later, and yeah, the news came out. I'm like, okay, Logan knew something that we didn't. If you look,
My sources told me.
yeah, right. So just first off, just looking at, you know, Tom Thibodeau's tenure with the Knicks. He went back to back 50-win seasons for the first time since the mid 90s. Got them to the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years in a row. I guess that wasn't enough for Knicks fans, though. One of the reasons I think that he got fired was he didn't trust the depth of his roster, which was almost a slap in the face to the GM, Leon Rose, because that's the team that he constructed, right? Um, so it's either that or because they want to target a high profile player this offseason, and his coaching style may turn away some star talent. Um, Multiple other factors could have played into this. The Knicks were bad defensively the whole playoffs, possibly in part to Thibs playing his starters 40 plus minutes. There was doubt among even the players that he could lead them to the finals, and it seems that this decision was trending in this direction for months. He got coached by Rick Carlisle in the Pacers series. That much is very clear. And obviously, the New York media is unforgiving, and he was scrutinized pretty hard for his decisions, such as the Karl-Anthony Towns absence in the fourth quarter of Game 2, when the Knicks were really struggling to score, or taking forever to make the lineup change that placed Mitchell Robinson in the starting lineup. And Josh Hart to the bench in Game 3 because the Knicks starters had been outscored by 29 points in 43 minutes the first two games of the series. One of the rumors and one of the things trending right now is that Jason Kidd is being targeted. The Knicks shooting for possibly Giannis Antetokounmpo in the offseason. Giannis, obviously, it was well documented that he offered to intervene with ownership to save Kidd's job in Milwaukee before he was fired by the Bucks. So that could be that connection that they want with Kidd and bringing him to New York. Kidd actually interviewed with the Knicks in 2020 as well, though he still has 2 years left on his Mavs contract, but he could be traded. I just don't know. The Knicks sent a bunch of picks to Brooklyn to get Bridges, so I just don't know that they have enough to orchestrate a trade with him. They could send Towns, which is something that I believe you mentioned last week, is that if they did want to go after a Durant, a Giannis, that they sending Towns would probably need to be a part of that package. So first off, what do you think about the firing? You obviously had some feelings that this could happen anyway, and then who do you think could be the best candidate?
Yeah, I said it'd be last week. I said there'd be like a 50-50 shot that they could fire him, and ultimately it landed on heads. It's always a gamble when you mess with winning because, I mean, that's what he's been doing by Knicks standards. Because, like I said, the Knicks haven't been a very successful franchise this century until he took over, and they've gotten farther and farther each season. So it's a gamble, but if you end up with someone like I don't know about Kidd. I mean, I don't know if I mean I think Mike Malone is safer because he's a championship winner.
Right.
He's like I say, don't mess with winning. But if you bring a guy who's won a lot, that's not really. I don't think that changes things too much. Kidd, he went to the title game last year, but other than that, I mean, not everything's been peachy. Like there's been some rough patches. So yeah, I don't know if that would lure Giannis over there. I mean, you still have to make the trade. Uh, so who knows how that will go. But as for Tibbs, what I find interesting is if he'll get another job, because by resume and record wise, you would imagine he'd be a top coaching candidate. But the question is, which team would want to take him in and just let him take control over how things are run, like how the team runs? I think I don't. If like a really good organization who's had success in the past was looking for a new coach, passes on him, I think it makes sense.
Yes.
I think if you're an irrelevant franchise like the
Pelicans,
Wizards, you know,
Hornets, Hawks, like any of these
yes,
dysfunctional like rosters and
I mean his resume of just like bringing teams like I mean the Bull. Think of the Bulls, not just the Knicks, but the Bulls in the early 2010s. I mean they sucked after Jordan for like a whole decade. He came in and then they were uh, fringe contenders. Like they were a playoff team and had an MVP with Rose and all that. Um, but yeah, I would if I was the Charlotte Hornets or Pelicans or Wizards, yeah, for sure, I would I would take him and let him work with the roster just so you can get winning back into your
he
franchise.
can turn around the culture of any organization. I mean, I'd pick him up in a heartbeat. And you mentioned Michael Malone as maybe being a safer option. You know, he's obviously freed up after being fired by the Nuggets, and you know there were issues between him and the GM, possibly, and maybe even the players. We don't know. We don't know. I'm not quite up to snuff on his coaching style, but would he be all too similar to Thibs in the way he you know does minutes or hounds his players. Like I don't know if Malone would be far off of what they just had with Tom Thibodeau. Another guy that was actually second in odds to get the job when the Tibbs story broke was Dan Hurley. That was so funny to me because he's already turned down a big job with the Lakers. Obviously, this is on the East Coast, which is more like him. If you were to take an NBA job, it would be Knicks, Celtics, Brooklyn, somewhere up there in the Northeast. But he's not leaving UConn right now. I also heard Johnny Bryant, the Cleveland Cavs assistant. He was an associate head coach to Tom Thibodeau in New York and may be in line for a Knicks job after the Suns actually hired his colleague, in Cleveland, Jordan Ott. Um, my favorite pick, though, would be if Jay Wright came out of retirement to coach his Villanova players.
Yeah, he already said no to that from what I've seen. So, but now you have to get an experience. You have to get a winner, a proven winner, a guy who's experienced. If you're the Knicks, that's just the state of your franchise right now. If you make the Eastern Conference Finals and you fire your coach, that means you think the coach was holding you back from winning a title. You should not get some unproven assistant to take the reins because that's messing with winning right there.
Yeah. Last topic that I wanted to go over was the NBA All-Star Game, the format being changed. Adam Silver reported this. It's USA versus World now. It's a good concept. I think we've had it before in the All-Star Game, or at least maybe in like a Rising Stars.
Rising Stars, I think.
It was in Rising Stars. And we've seen kind of this, nation, you know, get behind your country type of thing, work for the NHL. The Four Nations face-off was incredible and was probably the best All-Star game we've ever seen. It was really All-Star tournament, really. The NBA tried some odd four-team generations, different eras type team roster construction for the All-Star game last year, and it just did not work. Is this a good way to incentivize players when you put the USA on their chest? Obviously, for the world team, I don't know if it has the same effect, and it could could be a big failure as much as it can be for an All-Star game. Or do we just have to just say, heck with all this, let's just go back to the way it was and just hope that these players will bring some effort in the All-Star game, and just really just put it on the players, because I just don't know that any type of format's going to change the way these players are going to play for this.
So if you go back to what year was that? The year they did the charity thing where they had to play to a certain number. The first year they did that was like by far the best All-Star game that's occurred in the last few decades, because like they were actually like it was actually competitive.
I didn't actually remember the charities would actually be really incentivizing. I
Well,
feel
no,
like.
here's what I'm saying about that. That worked one time. They tried it again after, and then the effort went back to
Oh, okay.
nothing. That's how I feel about this. I could see this maybe working where they try a little harder this year, but then ultimately the next year it's not going to work. I think the All-Star game's dead. unless unless they come up with something financially, some huge financial reward for the players or something, um, or do the what the MLB did with the promise home court advantage. If you go back to West versus East and the promise home court advantage,
Yeah, I hate that baseball got rid of that. That was
I think
that's what
that's a
made
good
it
idea.
so great.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, this is an entertainment league, so I mean, you're supposed to entertain us, and if they're not performing, if you're not giving any effort, we're not entertained.
Yeah,
So, but they
yeah,
might.
you would at least get the players who are on championship caliber teams giving an effort because they want
Yeah,
that home court advantage. So yeah, that would actually steal something from what baseball used to do, and that would actually be a good idea.